Hi guys, my name is Deepinder Singh and I'll be your trainer for the next 5 weeks in this Selenium web automation testing. Before we proceed anything, before I speak anything, uh, just let me know if you guys can hear me properly and if you can see my screen. Then please type in yes in the chat box. Alright. Thanks for the confirmation, guys. So let us begin with that discussion. All of you are in muted mode. Just in case if you have a question, you're most welcome to ask any question at any time. Just type in your question in the chat box. Uh, you are in muted mode so as to avoid any background noises from the participants' side. So that is why you won't be able to speak. If you have any question, don't hold on to yourself. Ask the question at that time itself, but by typing. That's how you will be communicating with me. If you feel like you have a big question and it'll take time to write, then you can just let me know that, and then I'll unmute you. If it is just a small question, then please type in the chat box. All right. Otherwise, you can also speak, but I'll have to unmute you before we do anything. So that's it. All the instructions have been given to you. We'll start with our session. In today's session is going to be a more of theoretical one where you will be told about what Selenium is and the basic introduction to Selenium. Tomorrow's session will be the more practical one where we'll be doing hands-on with Selenium. That's it. Let's start with the session. Okay, so we're going to talk about Selenium web automation testing. So after this session, I assure you, you will understand each and every word which is written here. What is Selenium, what is web, and what is automation, and what is testing. That is what I believe in, that you should understand each and every word. After this session, you will understand each and everything here. So let's see, what are we going to discuss today? We're going to discuss what is testing, what are testing types, what is Selenium, what is automation testing, Selenium variants, supported platforms, Selenium and QDB comparison, and environment setup. What softwares are required to get started with Selenium? We'll be talking about them. Okay, so this is what we will be talking about. Prerequisite absolutely none. Completely new. It is for beginners. So let's start with what is testing. General definition, as you would know, testing is verifying whether the application works as expected or not. So that's what we call as testing. But what is this application thing here? Can you guys, any one of you, come up with what is application? Just in simpler terms. We won't complicate the things. So we'll just keep it as simple as possible. In layman terms, if I ask you what is application, what will be your reply? All right. Okay, so we're getting the answers. Guys, first of all, just in case if I mispronounce your name, you can tell me that this is not the correct pronunciation. You can speak. I'll unmute you and you can let me know what is the correct pronunciation of your name. So I apologize in advance, just in case if I mispronounce your name. Okay, so we have a couple of answers here, like Usha says software, Dhaval, Rahat, Archa, and Ashwarya. They say this is a software. Absolutely correct. In simpler terms, if we have to put it into, we can say application is just a software. So whenever you're working in an IT company, there will be a team who will be creating the softwares. We call that as development team, and there will be one team who will be testing it. Okay, so whether the software which has been created, is it working as per expectations or not? Is it doing the intended task or not? So that is what we will be calling it as testing. So we'll be testing the software. Now, when you have to test a software, the softwares can be broadly categorized into basically three types. Majorly, we can divide it into three types: applications, the first kind of application is a desktop application. A desktop application or desktop software is a software which gets installed in your system, and after that it doesn't require any internet connection for its working. For example, a calculator in my system. This is a desktop application. It doesn't require any internet connection for its working, so we call these as desktop applications. The second kind of applications are web applications. These applications or these softwares, as the name signifies, are those softwares which require internet for their working. Okay, so we call them as web applications. Now, in web applications, there are so many things. Commonly, we talk about those web applications or those softwares which are opened through browser. For example, let me show you a couple of pages here. There is this page, this news portal, thehindu.com. Can this be considered as web application? This requires internet for its working. What do you think? Can we call this as web application? Just reply with a yes or no, whether it is correct or not, that doesn't matter. Is this a web application? I'll explain, doesn't matter, I'm not checking you, I'm just asking you to interact. So you can reply with anything, yes or no, that doesn't matter. Okay, so we're getting answers, yes, no, a couple of mixed answers we're getting. Okay, I'll show you one more page. Facebook. What is this? Is this a web application? Okay. Because again, as I said, the web application is something which requires internet connection for its workings. This also requires internet connection. Let's talk about one more page. Times of India. There is one more news portal. We'll be talking about that. Okay, can this be considered as a web application? Last page we'll be talking about. Yes or no? Can we call this as web application? Okay. So we get the answers here. I've shown you 3 pages here. The first one is this news portal, thehindu.com. Second was Facebook, and third is this again. This is again a news portal, Times of India. So let us talk about them. Which of these can be considered as a web application, and which one of them is not? Whenever you open a web page, it can be categorized into 2 types. One is either it is going to be a website or it is going to be a web application. Now, how do you decide whether something is website or web application? The typical characteristic of a website is its static content. By static content, we mean the content which doesn't change from user to users. 2 concurrent users who are logging into the application, they're going to see the same content. For example, thehindu.com. If 2 or more concurrent users open this, they're going to see the same content. The content will not be changed from user to user. The same content will be shown to them, so we're going to call it as a website. The typical characteristic of a web application is its dynamic content. By dynamic, we mean the content which changes from user to user. The content can be customized from user to user. For example, Facebook. When 2 people open Facebook, 2 concurrent users also, they will never see the same content. Your Facebook feed is going to be different from that of my Facebook feed. So it depends on how many friends do I have, which friends do I have, what is my geographical location, which pages have I liked. So many factors count so as to create what we call as news feeds. So Facebook is going to show us different content. The Hindu is always going to show us the same content. So technically, Facebook is a web application. We say it is a website, technically that is wrong. Facebook is a web application, right? I showed you this third page, Times of India. So how is it different from the Hindu.com? Is this different from the Hindu.com because at the top here you have this sign in option in Times of India. If you sign in here, you can decide, you can customize what kind of news do you want to see. Do you want to see small world news or business news or cricket news or entertainment news or lifestyle news? You can decide what kind of news do you want to see more. So since it has the ability to customize the news, we call this as a web application. So Times of India is a web application, whereas on the other hand, the Hindu is not a web application. This is not a web application, this is a website. Okay, so that's the major difference between a web application and a website. So application can be called as a software, as we told, software on the web. A software which is installed somewhere on the web. I am logging in to that so as to use it. So we call that as a web application. And of course, if software is installed on the web, it is not there on my system. Of course, I need internet to access it. Facebook is not installed in my laptop. It is not installed in my desktop. I need to access it through a browser. Okay, so Facebook is a web application. Similarly, Gmail is also a web application. LinkedIn is also a web application. So all these are web applications. When you are working with Selenium, you will be working with some sort of web application and not a website. Okay, so Selenium is required to test a web application. Testing a website is not a difficult thing. We don't require a software like Selenium to test that. We require Selenium to test web applications because they are complex in nature and they have many functionalities inbuilt in them. To test those web applications, we require Selenium. While you're learning Selenium, then of course you can run your scripts on websites also just for practice purpose. But if you talk about the real-time scenarios, the real-time actual cases, then you will be executing your test cases on web applications. That is where you will be working with. And then coming back here, these are web applications we'll be working with. And the last kind of applications are mobile applications. We won't be talking about mobile applications in these sections. For mobile application, you have something called as APM. With Selenium, we'll be focused on web applications, not neither desktop applications nor mobile applications. We will only be working with web applications in Selenium. It is not because the course content is such that, it is because Selenium doesn't allow to work with desktop or mobile applications. It only works with web applications. So that is what we will be focusing on. We'll just be focusing on web applications which Selenium can work with. Desktop and mobile applications are something which are beyond the territory of working of Selenium. Right? So that is just for your knowledge that what we will be working with, where we will be working with. So that is the definition, verifying whether the application works as expected or not. Then testing types. Broadly, testing can be categorized into two different types. One is manual testing and the other is automation testing. Of course, these are not the only two, but just broadly we are categorizing it. If you search Google, you'll get more than 100 types of testing. But here we're just talking about broadly. A manual testing is the one where a human sits in front of a computer and he performs the testing. We call it as manual testing. And in automation testing, a software does the testing, not a human. We call that as automation testing. Right? So what is Selenium? Selenium is one of the most popular open source automated testing tools available in the market. What is open source? By open source we mean it is completely free. You don't have to buy any license for that. You don't have to pay any subscription fee for that. Just go to the website, download it and start using it. That's what it means to be open source. Automated testing tools. In the last slide, we talked about that in automation testing, we use some sort of software. So Selenium is that software which we will be using to test our applications using automation. Okay, so Selenium is going to help us to automate our applications. So moving on to the next slide. What is automation testing? It is the process of validating and verifying whether the software program works as expected using any automation tool. These just four words have been added in the very first slide where I showed you the definition of testing. We talked about the same thing. In that definition, if you just add more four words, using any automation tool, we'll call it as automation testing. So automation tool performs the testing instead of a tester. That's what we call it. The main purpose of automation testing is to automate regression testing. Okay. Now, what is that? The main purpose of automation testing is to automate regression testing. First of all of you guys present here, do you understand what is regression testing? Great, great. Okay, so it says the main purpose of automation testing is to automate regression testing. Why is it so? Whenever you talk about automation, just talk about automation in any industry, be it your automobile industry or be it your food manufacturing industry. If you have seen those videos on Discovery Channel or National Geographic Channel where they show you how the cars are being manufactured by robots or how the food is being manufactured automatically on the conveyor belts, wherever you see the automation, it has been brought in that industry where the processes are repetitive in nature. Those processes were repetitive in nature. That is why humans could program those steps, those processes to machines. They could tell machines what to do if this happens. Since those steps were predictable, repetitive in nature, they were programmable. Machines were programmed to do those repetitive tasks. Same is the case in automation testing also in software industry. Regression testing, out of all the testings, there are so many testings types: regression testing, white box testing, black box testing, functional testing, smoke testing. So many kinds of testings are there. Out of all the testings, regression testing is the most repetitive one. Since it is most the repetitive one, it is the best contender for automation. That's what it means. The main purpose of automation testing is to automate regression testing. Though we can automate other kinds of testings as well. We can automate functional testing, smoke testing, other kinds of testing can be automated, but regression testing is the most suitable one. It gives the most best return of on an investment. Uh, Usha says repetitive or reputation. No, it is repetitive. It repeats itself. Okay, so the steps which are there in regression testing, they are repetitive in nature. That's why we automate it, not reputation. All right. So that is why this line says the main purpose of automation testing is to automate regression testing. So which other tests can be automated apart from regression testing? Apart from regression testing, we can automate stable test cases. Stable test cases correspond to stable applications. Stable applications are those applications for which we have stopped receiving change requests from the client. The application has been accepted by the client. The client says, yes, I'm okay with the application. We don't need to change anything in the application. So once the application has been accepted, we can create we can create test cases for them, because if the application is going to change, if the client says that I need to change the application, the UI needs to be changed, if the test case is written for that, then we will have to change the automation scripts. So stable test means those applications which are stable in nature. For those applications, we will write test cases, and those test cases will be called as stable tests. Okay, we won't write automation test cases for those applications which are going to change in the coming future. If applications are going to change, if the UI of the application, user interface of the application is going to change, then we won't automate it, because whatever effort you will put in writing the automation script of the application, it will be wasted if the UI changes. Okay, so stable tests are the test cases corresponding to stable applications which are not going to change in the future. So we write the test cases for those applications. Smoke tests means smoke testing. Okay, so with a new build, each new build we perform this smoke testing. Before regression testing, we perform smoke testing. So since this is also repetitive in nature, we are going to automate smoke testing as well. The third kind of testing which we can automate is data driven tests. What are data driven tests? Those test cases in which we test the same application and using different set of data. We call it as data driven testing. For example, what does that mean? Let's say on this Facebook application, I want to test its login functionality with different combinations of usernames and passwords. I just need to check it for some purpose. I just want to check with 50 combinations of usernames and passwords. Using any random combination, can I log in or not? Okay, or can I break into the application or not? By just sending some random combinations of usernames and passwords. So that kind of testing, where we will be sending different data to the application, we'll call it as data driven testing. Okay, so testing the same application with different set of data, we call it as data driven testing. So what we do in this data driven testing, we would create an Excel sheet in which we'll create our data. The data will be our usernames and password combination that will be sent again and again to the application. So this way of testing the application will be called as data driven testing. So since this is also repetitive in nature, we will automate this as well. Okay, so apart from regression testing, these are the tests which we can automate. Right? So is this clear to everyone till this point? Whatever we've discussed, which tests can be automated, is it clear to you? Ellie, you say no. Where exactly do you want me to explain? Which point? Stable tests. Okay, just consider this. You went to a cake shop. You said, I want a pineapple cake of 3 kgs for my marriage anniversary, which is on coming Wednesday. So you went to a cake shop. Okay, you want me to unmute you? Sure. Let me just unmute. Okay, I've unmuted you. You can speak. You need to unmute yourself from your end as well, because
Yeah, hi Dipender.
yes, Ali, yes.
Yeah, the stable test. Like I have been working in this manual as a manual tester for quite some time,
Hmm.
and stable test is something new to me. I have not so far even heard of that term.
Hmm.
Do you mean after the release? Like, when does this even come into picture? Because this term is new to me.
Okay, so this term actually is not a type of testing. Stable tests means those tests which are stable. Because in automation, why this term is being used? Because you might not have heard about this, because in manual testing there is nothing we talk about this kind of things. In automation testing, you're going to spend some effort on writing your automation scripts, whatever application you need to automate. For that, you're going to spend some effort in creating automation scripts. So let's say you spend some 3 days in creating an automation script. After one
For
week,
regression test,
yes,
automation scripts are written for regression test. Yeah.
correct, correct. You wrote that. After one week, you get to know that the client says the UI of the application needs to be changed. Some functionality has to be added or updated, or something has to be done. The UI of the application gets changed. So when the application UI gets changed, you will have to change your automation scripts again. Whatever effort you put in those 3 days, that might get wasted completely, 100%, whatever spent your time, whatever time you spent, or 50% of the effort might be wasted. So whatever effort you spent on that, since there is a doubt that it will get wasted, we avoid those automation scripts where there is a probability that it might change. We don't consider those applications as stable applications, and the test cases corresponding to them are called as unstable tests.
Test cases again are written by manual testers, right?
No.
Test scripts are written by. Okay, you mean in terms of automation writing the.
Correct, correct, correct.
Okay, okay, okay,
I'm talking about from
okay,
the automation perspective.
okay. Makes sense now. Yeah, makes sense since I was not involved with the automation aspect.
Okay, okay.
New to this. Yeah, now it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Because it involves effort, you're going to spend time, and of course, your company is spending money on you, so it will be wasted if the application changes,
Okay.
right? So that's why
Okay.
we don't write automation test cases for those applications where there is a probability that it is going to change in the coming future.
Okay. I was slightly confused because I was always on the manual side and
Yeah,
never
yeah.
on the automation side. Now it
Sure,
makes sense. Yeah.
sure. No
Yep.
worries.
Got it. Got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mm.
Okay, so this way, guys, you can ask the questions. Don't hesitate to ask the questions. Clear your doubts, because this is the place where you're going to clear your doubts. So don't hold on to yourself. Always be ready to ask the questions. So moving on to next slide. Selenium variants. The current version of Selenium is 3. Let me just update it. It has been updated. It is not 3.8. Now it has become 3.9.1. So new version of Selenium has been updated. It keeps updating itself quite frequently. So current version of Selenium is 3.9.1, where this 3 signifies Selenium third generation. By Selenium third generation, we mean, like, since its inception, it has got modified 3 times majorly. It just to tell you brief introduction, brief history about that. Selenium was introduced in 2004. Then it was called as simply Selenium. Then it was overhauled. Some new functionalities were added into it. In 2011, a new kind of Selenium was introduced. Then it was called as Selenium 2, Selenium second generation. Okay, so whatever versions started in those times, they were written like 2.53.1. Okay, so where this two, the first two signified this is Selenium second generation. 53 means 53 major changes had taken place since its inception, and one here meant that one minor change had taken place after the 53rd major change. So that's how the numbering went, but the first digit always stayed as 2. In 2016, a new version, new Selenium was introduced. A new generation of Selenium was introduced. It was named as Selenium 3. And now, whatever version number you will see, it will start with the digit 3. The 3 here signifies its generation. 9.1 is the current version. 9 signifies that there have been 9 major changes since its inception, and one minor change has taken place after the ninth major change. So that is the current version of Selenium 3.9.1. Now, Selenium, when you talk about Selenium, is not a single software. It is a combination of three different components. So Selenium 3 comprises of following three components. So we refer to it as Selenium 3. Okay, so Selenium 3 means Selenium of third generation. What are those? The first is Selenium IDE, Selenium Integrated Development Environment. Third is Selenium, second is Selenium Webdriver, which you might have heard about, quite popular. If you read some job portals, if you have heard about Selenium, then this is the most probable word which you have heard, Selenium Webdriver. Third is Selenium Grid. So Selenium comprises of three different components. It is not a single software. Out of these, Selenium WebDriver is the most famous one. And in fact, this is the component which you will be working with most of the times. 90% of the automation work is done by Selenium WebDriver itself. IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, it just does the 5% of the work, and Grid also does some 5% of the work. Out of this, Selenium IDE and Grid, it is not used in all the organizations. I'll tell it to you what they do, but not used in all the organizations. Just depends whether on the requirement whether it will be used or not. But Selenium WebDriver is definitely the component which you will be working with when you join any organization. So that is where we will be focusing on in our coming sessions. Selenium WebDriver. Of course, we'll touch base with Selenium IDE and Grid as well, but Selenium WebDriver is the most important one, and this is the place where we'll be spending almost all of our time in our coming sessions. All right. There's a question here. Osha says, what is Selenium RC? RC stood for Selenium Remote Control. It is now not there. When you had Selenium 2 had four components. The first one was IDE. The second was RC. Third one was WebDriver. And fourth one was Grid. These are the components I'm talking in Selenium second generation. In Selenium second generation, you had these four components. In Selenium third generation, you have only three: IDE, WebDriver, and Grid. Okay, this RC has been deprecated. It is no more there in Selenium third generation. So that is a major difference between Selenium 2 and 3. RC has been deprecated in Selenium third generation. Rest of the three, IDE, WebDriver, and Grid, are still retained. RC is not there. The RC was there in Selenium first generation as well. It was there in second generation, but now it has been deprecated. Now we only work with WebDriver. Okay, so that's what it is. RC stood for remote control. That was its definition, but we are not going to work with that because it is no more there in the picture. So these are the three major components. After that, supported platforms. Selenium is a cross-platform tool. By cross-platform tool, we mean you can use Selenium on any operating system. It can be your Windows operating system, you could be using Mac operating system, it can be anything, and in those operating systems you can use any browser to automate. So actually platform is a combination of two words: operating system plus browser. Just a moment, guys, my pen is giving some problem. Okay, operating system plus browser is that what we call as platform. Okay, so you can just ignore my beautiful handwriting. Operating system can be, you can use Mac operating system or Windows operating system, or you can use Linux operating system to automate your applications. Browser can be anything, Chrome or IE or Edge or any, in these in these operating systems, you can use any of these browsers to automate your application. So it is a cross-platform tool. There is no restriction that you only have to use Windows operating system or Mac operating system. Whatever operating system you want to use, you can. Whatever browser you want to automate, you can. So that's what we call as cross-platform tool. And then the second line says it supports Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, and Perl. Now, Selenium WebDriver, which we will be working with, the major component of Selenium suite, it is not a UI based tool. There is no UI of that tool. You cannot click any buttons to automate your applications. You'll have to give commands to it. Okay, you'll have to write the commands so as to give instructions, so as to give some orders to the application. Those commands which have to be given, they can be given in Java or C Sharp or Ruby or Python or Perl. So any of these languages you can use to automate your applications. Okay, so you can use any of these applications to automate. Languages can be used to automate your application. We will be working in this training sessions, we'll be talking about Java. Why Java? Because as compared to other languages, Java is in more demand, it has more user base, and it has more job openings as compared to other languages. Okay, of course you can see job openings corresponding to C Sharp, Ruby, or Python and Perl as well, but they're very less as compared to Selenium with Java. So we'll also be focusing on Java. We'll also be talking about Java. Now, the first question which arises in the people's mind is when you're talking about Selenium with Java. So the first question they talk about is how much Java do I need to know about this? So Java is actually divided into two parts. Let's just show them. I don't know what happened to my pen. It is giving some problem. Okay, so Java can be divided into two parts. One is called as core Java and one is called as advanced Java. Okay, core Java is the part where we just talk about the basics, like what is a class, what is an object, that kind of stuff. Advanced Java is the implementation of this. Just to give you an analogy, when you start learning a language, let's talk about English language. What you do, first you learn the alphabets, A, B, C, D, E, E, right? So first you learn the alphabets, then you combine those alphabets so as to make the words, and words are combined to make sentences. Okay, but whatever you do, that is just going to be the implementation of the alphabets only. You're combining different alphabets in different ways that makes the words and sentences. Similarly, core Java is just a bunch of topics. It is just a bunch of concepts which, when combined, you make something called as advanced Java. Okay, so if you want to work as a Java developer, then you need to know both core Java and advanced Java. But if you want to work in Selenium using as an automation tester, then you just need to know core Java. Advanced Java is not required. Okay, so we just need to focus on core Java so as to work with Selenium. And in that also some very basic concepts like what is a class, what is an object, what is method, that kind of stuff. We'll be talking about that, whatever the basic stuff is required. As Madhu told you in the beginning, we'll talk about that. Some basic programs we'll create, whatever is required for Selenium. We won't be going into too much detail of them because detail is required if for interview stuff. We won't be doing that. We just be focusing on, for implementation point of view, what is required so as to understand the scripts in Selenium. So core Java is what we will be focusing on. That is what is required. Advanced Java is definitely not required for Selenium, neither for interviews nor for your implementation. So we just need to focus on core Java, right? So core Java is just a bunch of topics. You don't need to go into detail anytime in Java. Okay, so I'll explain you the concepts first of all for Java, and then we'll move on towards Selenium. So don't worry about if you don't know about anything about Java. We'll be talking about them in the class itself. So next is Selenium versus QTP comparison. Selenium versus QTP, why we're comparing them? Because QTP, as you might know, is another automation tool which was quite famous prior to Selenium. After that, Selenium came into market and it gained quite market share. Uh, but still, since we're moving into automation, we're just going to talk about what the competitors had to offer. So what is that? Selenium is an open source tool. By open source tool, we means it is completely free, as we talked about. QTP, on the other hand, is a commercial tool. It requires a license to be bought before you can use it, and that is a major reason Selenium is being adopted by all the organizations. Organizations are moving towards Selenium because it is completely free. It saves a lot of money for the organizations. That is why we're moving towards Selenium. QTP is a commercial tool. You have to buy a license for that. That's why its demand has decreased, because it costs company quite a lot. Then Selenium supports only web applications. Using this, you can just test web applications. QTP can support desktop and web applications both. Selenium is a cross-platform tool. QTP is not a cross-platform tool. It is just for Windows operating system. Selenium supports many programming languages: Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, Perl. QTP supports only VB script. Okay, in QTP we talk about something called as descriptive programming. In descriptive programming, you can write certain code. If you want to write the code, for that you'll have to use VB script. So that is what we call as descriptive programming. But there is only one language which is supported for that. Okay. Then it is software installation. Now we'll be talking about software installation, whatever softwares are required. But before we talk about the software installation, it is almost 56 minutes into this session. Uh, we have a question here, first of all. Okay, yes, Ramanjit, what is your question? Do you want me to unmute you?
Hi, Deepinder. Yeah, I
Yes,
have a question. We say that Selenium is basically used for web applications, for testing of web applications. On the other hand, QTP is also used for testing of web applications as well as desktop, right?
Ramanjit.
So, but sometimes we never consider QTP for testing web applications all the time. We use Selenium for that. So, can you please elaborate it more?
This is because, see, whatever can be done by QTP can be done by Selenium, or you can say it is just other way around. Whatever can be done by Selenium can also be done in QTP. But
Right.
if you use Selenium, it saves a lot of money for the organization.
Just because it's an open source tool,
Just
right?
because it is open source. Just because it is open source, that is why organizations are moving towards it. And how much does it cost? If I have to tell you, for QTP, one license, if you have to buy, that costs an organization $8,000.
Right.
Okay, so $8,000 for one license. If an organization buys, let's say, 5 licenses, $40,000 for licenses. Along with that, an organization has to pay $300,000 for a mandatory support, which they give for 3 years. So approximately 3.5 to 4 lakh dollar have to be paid upfront just before you start using the tool. But
Okay.
that money can be saved in Selenium.
Okay, so whenever there is a testing of web applications, we will go for Selenium, right? The
Yes,
first
correct.
choice is Selenium.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, so this is about the Selenium and QTP. The next thing we'll be talking about is software installation. Now, before we talk about software installation, we'll take a break for 5 minutes. It is almost 58 minutes into the session.
Deepinder, I just have a quick question.
Yes, may I know who is this?
This is Archa.
Yes, Archa, tell me.
Uh, so, if we go back to the previous slide,
Sure.
you were talking about the descriptive programming in QDP. So, are you saying just because it involves scripting, that's why, I mean, coding, that's why you call it descriptive programming, and it's not the case with Selenium?
No, in QTP, there are two ways by which you can create your test scripts. First is record and playback feature. Guys, rest of the guys who do not understand this, you can just ignore this for 2 minutes, whatever I'm going to speak, because we don't require to go into detail of that. Those who understand would be able to relate to it. In QTP, there are two ways by which you can create test cases. First is the record and playback option. The second is where you can write your own scripts. Okay, when you write your own scripts, it gives you more freedom that what you want to do exactly. Okay, so where you want to go and what you want to do, so you can define. When you want to define, when you want to give commands, how will you give the commands? For that, you have to write the commands in VB script, Visual Basic, and that way of creating the test cases. One is record and playback. The other is writing your scripts. When you write your script, that way of writing the scripts is called as descriptive programming. Okay, so in QTP, if you have to do descriptive programming, you have to use VB script. So that's what we were talking about here.
Okay, and is this descriptive programming QTP specific?
Yes, this is QTP specific. This is QTP
okay.
specific.
Oh, okay. Then okay, we can move on this part.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, I have one more question. Lakshmi says, then for desktop applications, what we need to do. For desktop applications, Lakshmi, either you go with a third-party tool that is called as AutoIT. We can use it along with Selenium, but Selenium won't be able to test your desktop applications. Okay, so if you say I want to test my this calculator, you cannot test this calculator using Selenium. Selenium is only for web applications, right? So you won't be able to use this to test your desktop applications, right? Dhaval says, does Selenium support VB? No, Dhaval, Selenium doesn't support VB. It supports only those languages which follow object-oriented programming concepts. C#, Java, Ruby, Python, Perl. These languages follow object-oriented programming, so it just supports these languages only. VB is not supported. All right. So any other questions till this point? Okay, Indu says my organization has been using QTP for regression. Now we're moving to Selenium. Can the existing scripts be used or it start over? No, we cannot use the existing scripts because whatever scripts you are there, they're in VB. You cannot migrate your scripts from QTP to Selenium. You will be writing or you will be starting over. So it is just like moving from scratch. So Selenium and QTP, they don't have something in common. You will be starting over. Ali says, is this 2-hour class? Yes, this is going to be a 2-hour class. We just are done with 1 hour. But don't worry, I won't bore you. It is just almost 1 hour. We'll take a break for 5 minutes so that in those 5 minutes, if you want to do something, you want to attend a call or you have some water, you can in those 5 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll continue. Okay, so even if you don't have any work, just go out, have a walk, and come back in 5 minutes so that you feel refreshed. Right? So now we'll take a break for 5 minutes. I'll start an online timer so that we track the time. Okay, so I'm going to start an online timer, 5 minutes, and even if you don't have a work, just leave your seat, go out, have a walk, and come back in 5 minutes so that you're refreshed. So see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay guys, so let us resume our discussion. I hope you guys are back after the break. Let us continue with our discussion. I hope you had a great time in these 5 minutes. You enjoyed a lot, maybe. Okay, so let us continue with our discussion. So before break, we talked about Selenium is a cross-platform tool and what languages does it support. Now we're going to talk about the software which are required for installation. What softwares do we require before we can start working with Selenium? 4 softwares are required. The first thing is Java, which will be installing. The second is this Eclipse or IntelliJ. Now, what is this Eclipse or IntelliJ? We'll first talk about these 2 softwares. Okay, so I told you that whenever you have to give commands in Selenium, you have to do that using Java, because those commands are to be given in Java. Now, where will I write those commands in my system? Okay, so there are so many softwares in my system. Can I write them on Word? No. Can I write it on Microsoft Excel sheet? No. Can I write it on this Alarms and Clock or Amazon or Android Studio? No, probably not. I can write my and Java programs on a software. Let us say this is my computer. I can write those programs on a software called as Eclipse. Okay, so the place, the window inside which you will be writing your Java programs, that will be called as Eclipse. So Eclipse is called as an editor or IDE, Integrated Development Environment, where we will be writing our code. Now, whatever Java code we have written inside it, we will be running it. There will be one play button. We'll click on that and it will start executing our code. But how will my system understand? What does that mean? So as to interpret those words in Java which we would be writing, so as to make our system understand, we have to install Java in our systems as well. So Java is going to work in the background. Whatever code we write in Eclipse, that will be interpreted by Java. Java is going to make a sense of it. It is going to give us the output back on Eclipse. So Java is something which will be working in the background. We won't be interacting with Java directly. We'll be interacting with Eclipse only. Okay, so we'll be interacting with Eclipse with us. With humans, the interaction is going to be with the Eclipse. Java is going to work in the background. So these two softwares are required. So first of all, we will install Java in our systems. Just for knowledge purpose, I'm asking you, is there anyone who is having Java installed in his or her system already? No. All right, right. We'll do that. I was just asking, like, maybe you have. Sometimes people have it, so I was just asking. Okay, so let us see how do we install Java. To install Java, I'll be forwarding you the installation document. That is why Madhu asked you in the very beginning itself that give him your email ID to him, so that after the session you can receive those documents. For that, Madhu must have your email ID because Madhu will be sending all the documents to you. I'll forward it to Madhu. Madhu will then forward it to every one of you. So that is how this is going to work. Just make sure that your email ID is with Madhu. So we're going to install Java first of all. So let me just open that document. I'll show it to you what we need to do. Java installation for Windows. Okay, so is there anyone who is working on Mac who needs to install Java on Mac? Asha, no worries. We'll talk about which Eclipse needs to be used. So anyone on Mac, or everyone is using Windows? Okay, no Mac. Okay, Lakshmi says yes. Okay, I'll tell you how to install on Mac as well. First, we'll talk about Windows, that how to install on Windows. So, Nasreen says I have Windows 7. That is fine, Nasreen. You can have Windows 7 also. That's fine. There is this is a document which I'll be forwarding. So this document contains all the um, screenshots where you need to click. These are links are all are highlighted, so you don't need to memorize anything. So this is the link. Just click on this link. So it will open this page. On this page, you have to click on this JDK. You can see this is highlighted here in this document as well. So you have to click on JDK. JDK stands for Java Development Kit. Click on Accept License Agreement. Now, if you have a Mac operating system, download this file, JDK. I'll just zoom in. Okay, you just need to click on this file corresponding to Mac operating system. If you have Windows operating system, just download this file, .exe file corresponding to Windows operating system. So choose the file depending upon your operating system, download it, and just double click that file. So if it is Windows, for example, this is I'll be downloading Windows. So this is some 376 MB file. I'll just cancel this because I already have installed Java in my system. After you download it, double click that exe file or that .dmg file, whatever that is. Double click that, start installing it. Just keep clicking next, next, next. And if you're using Mac, then you are done. After that, you can go have a coffee, pizza, enjoy your time, rest of the time, because your installation is done. But if you're using Windows, you're not done. You have to spend some more time, and you can repent. Why did you buy Windows? So let us see what you need to do after that. After you download this exe file, whatever file you have to download, you are going to download that. Just double click it. It is going to show you this screen where it says welcome to installation wizard. Just click on next, 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 and in the end it is going to show you Java SE development kit successfully installed. So after you see this success message on Windows, you're not done. You have to do some more work. Mac people, when they say they see this message, their work is over. Okay, they don't have to do after this. So that is why I said they can go and have a coffee. They can switch off their system and they can scroll Facebook as well. Whatever they want to do, they can. Windows people, what they need to do after downloading it and after clicking on this console, after you see this success message, you need to go to C drive, go to program files, go to a folder. There would be a folder which would be named as Java. You need to go inside that folder. In that you will see two folders. One is JDK and one is JRE. Okay, so this reminds me of a movie where they said, okay, when you go into the house, you will see two doors. There will be one door on left hand side and there will be one door on right hand side. You have to go in the left, don't go in the right. So don't go inside JRE, you have to go JDK. In JDK, you have this bin folder. Okay, so within the room, there is one more room. So within that JDK folder, there is one more folder bin. You have to go inside that bin folder and you have to take this path. Now all these steps are mentioned here in the running notes. You don't have to memorize anything, so don't worry about that stuff. I'm just telling you what you need to do. Okay, so when you go inside that bin folder, take that path, copy this. What you need to do, you have to paste it somewhere. Where will you paste it? Click on this PC. If you're using Windows 10, if you're using Windows 7, it will be my computer or computer, whatever that is. Right click on that, go to properties, then you have to click on advanced system settings. Then on this you have to go to advanced tab. There will be various tabs: computer name, hardware, advanced. You have to go to advanced tab, go to environment variables. When this window pops up, you have to locate path variable, click on that and then click on edit. Now when you click on edit, another window pops up. Again click on new, and then the cursor which is blinking here, you need to paste your path. That bin folder which we copied, that has to be pasted here finally. That's why we copied it. Okay, so after pasting it here, you just need to click OK, and again you need to click OK, and then you need to click OK, and then you need to close this. So that finishes your installation on Java. Now all these steps, as I told you, are mentioned here in the installation document where you have to go to. You need to click on advanced system settings and you need to go on this path. Okay, on Windows 8 or 8.1, this process will be the look will be different. The last window which will open, that will not be a big window. It will be a smaller window. So it is mentioned here, but if you're using Windows 10, it is mentioned here what you need to do. So all these steps are mentioned here. This document will be forwarded to you. After that, once you're done with this, your Java installation gets completed. Just restart your system and just check it. Open your command prompt, CMD, right? CMD stands for command prompt. Just check. We are going to check whether it has been installed properly or not. You can write Java C, press enter. When you do that, you see on the left hand side there are certain commands coming. There are commands, and on the right hand side there are certain description of that command, those commands. So if you see these commands and their descriptions, that means Java has been successfully installed. But if you see a message like Java C cannot be recognized as an internal or external command, then it means there is some problem in the installation of Java. You need to reinstall it. Okay, but otherwise it is a straightforward process. You won't face any problem as such. That's the process. All the steps are mentioned here in this installation document that will be forwarded to you after the class. Even if you face any problem, you can just write an email to Madhu. Madhu will help you out that why is it not working. Okay, so if you face any problem in the installation, otherwise you won't face it. Just in case if you do, then please feel free to contact Madhu. So that is your installation part. That is how you're going to install Java. So the first software is over. Java has been installed. The second software is Eclipse or IntelliJ. IntelliJ is one more IDE. Some organizations use IntelliJ also, but most of the organizations will be using Eclipse. So we'll also be talking about Eclipse, but even if you have to work in IntelliJ, that is not different, because you have to write the Java code. The Java is going to remain same whether you write it in Eclipse or you write it in IntelliJ. That is going to remain same, only the layout or the UI will be different. Okay, but we'll be talking about Eclipse because this is what the most of the organizations use. So we'll talk about now how to install Eclipse. So how do we install Eclipse? Again, there's a document for that. Eclipse installation. So it is quite straightforward. There is a link mentioned here. Just take that link. On this page, you will see there are various kinds of Eclipses which are available. The first one is Eclipse IDE for Java Enterprise Edition developers, Eclipse IDE for Java developers, for C++ developers, for PHP developers. So many kinds of Eclipses are available. You have to get this one, Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Just remember that. This is also, the screenshot also is mentioned, choose your operating system and select this Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Don't choose any other Eclipse because in the coming sessions we're going to install certain plugins which only work with Eclipse IDE for Java developers. It doesn't work with other Eclipse. So you have to download the correct one. So download Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Choose your operating system, whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit. How do you know which operating system do you have? Is it 32 or 64? That is easy. Just right click this PC, go to properties, and when you see this on this window, you can see here it says system type. So here for me this system type is 64-bit operating system. Just check it what is there for you in your operating in your system. If it is 32, just download the one corresponding to 32. If it is 64, download the one corresponding to 64. Since I'm using 64, I'll click on this 64-bit, and there's a download link here. I'll download this. So it will say thanks. You also say thanks. I'll cancel this because I already have that. I have this 180. This is just a 181 MB file. It is going to be a zip folder. When you download it, of course, you need to unzip it. When you unzip it, after unzipping, this is how it is going to look like. Eclipse Java Neon 3 something. Okay, so in place of Neon, you will have Oxygen here because that is the latest version of Eclipse. When I downloaded, it was Neon. Prior to Oxygen, the version name was Neon. That is fine. Latest one is Oxygen. I'm using still the Neon, so I'll open that. I'll go inside it, and here you have this Eclipse application. There's an icon here. Now Eclipse is not to be installed. You download it, unzip it, and start using it as such. You don't need to install it. Okay, so this is the Eclipse icon. You need to double click and Eclipse will start. Okay, so it won't get installed in your system. For starting it easily, what you can do, you can send this shortcut to your desktop so that you don't have to come to this folder every time. On desktop, you can create a link so that every time when you double click it, Eclipse starts directly here. Okay, so you just need to download it. That's it. It doesn't require any installation. So Eclipse is also done and Java is also done. So these are the two main softwares which you must have in your systems, and we've downloaded them. Till this point, if you guys have any questions or queries, you can ask. Like some people have queries, like I have an older version of Eclipse or something. If you have that, you can ask that. Archa says, so we need Java programming, not JavaScript. Yes, exactly, Archa. Archa, is it Archa or Archa? I'm sorry for that, for asking that if I'm mispronouncing it.
It's Archa.
Archa. Okay, thanks. Okay,
Archa.
So should I say Archa or Archa? What should I say?
Archa. Archa.
Archa.
Thanks.
Right.
Doesn't matter, but it's
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Okay. So right. So Archa. So there's a question here. So we need Java programming and not JavaScript. Yes, exactly. Java is different and JavaScript is different. They both are different things. JavaScript is something which people use to create the front end of the applications. Okay, it is used in that so as to make the applications more interactive. we will not be required to work with JavaScript, that is something separate. We will be working with Java, though they share the common name Java, but Java is different and JavaScript is different. We don't require JavaScript, we require Java. That's it.
Okay. And you said we don't need advanced Java, just core Java
Correct.
concept should help me to do Selenium program. I mean,
Correct.
to work with Selenium, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Advanced Java is not required. Okay, so we won't be doing that as well because that is not required. For Selenium, we just require core Java. Okay, so that is done. Java is done. Eclipse is done. I had one more question. Let me just check. Okay, no, there is no question. All right. Okay, there's a question. Nasreen says, can we set up Selenium configuration in VDI shared drive? Nasreen, what is that VDI shared drive? What do you mean by that? Okay, you want to install Selenium on virtual machine. Yes, absolutely. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on virtual machine also. That's possible. Okay, but the precondition is that virtual machine must have Java installed inside it. Java and Eclipse must be there. Then you can work with Eclipse in the virtual machine also. Right? Can we install everything in the shared drive? Yes, you can install everything. Whatever softwares we're talking about, you can install all of them in your shared drive or your virtual machine. You can do that. Okay, so the next thing we'll be talking about is Selenium IDE. Now this Selenium IDE is those components, as I told you in the very beginning, that Selenium is not a single software, it is a set of software. There are three softwares. There are three components in Selenium. IDE, WebDriver, and Grid. So now we are going to talk about IDE. What is this IDE and how to install it? So IDE is a Firefox plugin. So the first component in Selenium suite, IDE, it is a Firefox plugin. What do we mean by that? Firefox plugin means it is a software which has been created only for Firefox. Okay, plugin means a specific software which is going to work in a specific area. So plugin is that software which has been created just for Firefox. If it were created for Chrome, then we would have called it as Chrome plugin. Okay, so plugin works with just one particular browser. So IDE has been created just as a Firefox plugin. It is not available for any other browsers. It is not available for Chrome. It is not available for IE or Edge or Safari. It is just available for Firefox. Now the question is, why only Firefox? This IDE plugin was created just for the introduction to Selenium, for the people who are moving from manual testing to automation testing. So just to give you a feel that how does automation looks like, for them this plugin was created. So this Firefox plugin was created for those people. Since it was just created for introduction to automation, introduction can be just done with one plugin as well in one browser. It is not required to be created in any other browser. They just created it for Firefox browser. They didn't create it for any other browser because they just wanted to give the introduction to this. Okay, Firefox. They just wanted to introduce you to automation using this Firefox plugin. Now the question is, if they had to just introduce us to automation, if they just had to create a plugin only for one browser, why did they only choose Firefox? They could have chosen Chrome, they could have chosen Internet Explorer or Safari or any other browser. Why only Firefox? They chose Firefox because Firefox is considered as the most developer-friendly browser. What do we mean by developer-friendly? Developer-friendly means the kinds of testing, the kind of hit and trial developers can do on Firefox is not possible on any other browsers. Chrome doesn't let you do that. IE doesn't let you do that. Firefox lets you do the testing, the hit and trial on itself. So that is why it was easiest for the developers at Selenium to create this plugin on Firefox. That is why they created it on Firefox. Okay, so that is why it is only available for Firefox, not for any other browser. This is just for your introduction to automation. So as to work with this IDE, so as to understand this IDE, you must have Firefox installed in your system. So I'm going to open Firefox in my system. So that's Firefox browser. Now to download Selenium IDE, to install it, you need to go to Selenium official website, and the Selenium official website is seleniumhq.org. That is the official website. We will be referring to this website every time whenever you have to download something related to Selenium. So we have seleniumhq.org. I'll go to download. On this download, you need to scroll down a bit, and here you will see Selenium IDE. So what is Selenium IDE? It says Selenium IDE is a Firefox plugin which records and plays back user interactions with the browser. So it is based on the same feature, it is based on the same principle as QTP is based on. It is also based on record and playback feature. So for those guys who do not understand what is record and playback feature, doesn't matter, I'll tell you what that is. So it is based on the record and playback feature. Use this either to create simple scripts or assist in exploratory testing. Simple scripts means we cannot create complex scripts with this. We can just create simple scripts with this. What do we mean by that? We'll talk about that. Okay, so on their website itself, they're just telling that you can use it for simple scripts. If you have to talk about complex scenarios, which you will be working with, complex means the general scenarios. Simple scripts is simple by clicking some links and entering username and password, that kind of stuff, simple stuff. If you have to create simple scripts, you can use this, but if you have to create the real-time applications and automation testing you have to talk about, for that you won't be able to use it because this is not the full-fledged tool. The full-fledged tool is Selenium Webdriver. This is not that full-fledged tool because this is just for your introduction to automation. So how do we install it? So here you have this link, download latest released version from addons.mozilla.org. I'm going to click on that. Now, when you click on that, there is one thing which I would like to tell you. I'll show you the Selenium official blog. Just a moment. WordPress.seleniumhq.org. What happened? Just a moment, guys. seleniumhq.wordpress.com, I'm sorry. Okay, just see this, what it says. On August 9, 2017, they introduced a statement, Firefox 55 and Selenium IDE. Bad news, Firefox 55 onwards, Selenium IDE will no longer work. The current version of Firefox is around 58. With that version, if you're having anything above 55, then Selenium IDE will not work for you. What's the reason for that? You can read it here. The gist of this story is, the summary of this story is that after Firefox 55, Firefox updated itself. The compatibility which was there with Selenium IDE that got lost. Now you cannot use Selenium IDE. So whatever that little functionality we had, whatever we could use it for, now it cannot be used for that purpose because Firefox has updated itself. So actually there is no point of spending time on Selenium IDE because nowadays no one is using it because the compatibility has been lost. If you want to understand it, what you need to do, you need to downgrade your Firefox. The current version is 58. You need to downgrade it to something called as something like 37. You need to downgrade it, and then you can install Selenium IDE, and then you can work with it. but that is of no use. There are two reasons why it is of no use. First is, as I told you, Firefox is updated. You can't use it. The second is, this Selenium IDE only works with Firefox. What if I have to check my application in Chrome? Using this tool, you cannot test your application in Chrome browser because it is not available in Chrome. So you cannot say to the client nowadays that I've tested the application in Firefox, it is working, and we assume that it should also be working in Chrome. So that is something which we can't say to the client. So Firefox only can help us test the application, that too to a limited extent. Very simple functionality of the application can be tested. That application cannot be tested in Chrome or any other browser. So these are the two reasons. You can test your application in all the browsers using Firefox, using Selenium IDE. Secondly, after Firefox 55, that compatibility, whatever we had, even that is lost, so we can't use it. So actually there is no use of spending time on it. So we won't be spending time on this as well. It was just some very basic stuff. So on the official blog, you can say they are saying that, and this is happening since August 9 last year. So there is no use of that. So we won't be spending time on this. So we can skip it, Selenium IDE stuff, because that is not useful. So we won't be spending time on this. Okay, so when we could use it when it was compatible with Firefox, even then at that place also, whatever we could use it for, that was some 5% of the testing we could use it. Okay, nothing much, and that did not count much in our day-to-day work. The actual thing which we need to understand is this WebDriver. That is where we will be spending time on. This is cross-browser thing. This is cross-platform thing. When I told you Selenium is cross-platform, we were actually referring to WebDriver. The WebDriver is cross-platform. It can be used in any browser, in any operating system. It was not Selenium IDE. So we'll be spending time on this WebDriver, rather spending time IDE, downgrading the Firefox browser and doing stuff. We won't be doing that. Okay. So now we can move to Selenium WebDriver. In Selenium WebDriver, before we can move to Selenium WebDriver, the prerequisite for this is, in this WebDriver, it doesn't have any, Selenium WebDriver doesn't have any UI. You have to give commands to this. This was the component I was talking about, that you have to give the commands. So those commands which have to be given, they have to be given in Java. So before you can start working with WebDriver, you must know the Java. That is a prerequisite for this. Okay, so once you know Java, then you can move to WebDriver. So what will we do now? We'll talk about Java first. Today we'll talk about Java. Tomorrow also we'll talk about Java. From next session onwards, which is on the coming Saturday, we'll start working with Selenium WebDriver for today's remaining session. And tomorrow's session, we'll be talking about Java. And then from the coming session, we'll talk about Selenium WebDriver. Archa says, that means ID is completely out of market. Yes, absolutely. It is completely out of market. Right? So we'll be now talking about Java. We'll be starting with that. So let us talk about Java, the basics of Java. Now, when you have to talk about Java, when I have to learn Java, from where do I start from? Of course, whenever you have to learn something, there must be some starting point where you start from. What is chapter 1 of Java? From where do I start? So let's talk about that. Java is a programming language which is based on a concept. We'll be talking about a concept. You might have heard about this, object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming. Now, this object-oriented programming is a concept on which we have various languages based, like Java is a language based on object-oriented programming. Sometimes it is called as OOPS concepts as well, object-oriented programming. Java, we have C#, we have Ruby, we have Python, we have Perl. So many languages are based on this object-oriented programming. So you have these languages which are based on the same concept. It is just like saying object-oriented programming, as I told you, is a concept. It is just like saying it is a concept like democracy. What is democracy? Democracy is a concept. It is followed by many countries. It is followed by US. It is followed by UK. It is followed by India. And more than 103 countries follow this concept. So democracy is not a prerogative of any country. It is not a special right of any country. Any country can follow this. Okay, so when you have to explain democracy, you can explain it in English, you can explain it in Hindi or Punjabi or in Tamil or Telugu or whatever your mother tongue is, you can speak that. Okay, but the concept doesn't change. You can explain it in any language. Similarly, object-oriented programming is a concept. We can explain that using the syntax of Java or C# or Ruby or Python or Perl. They're following the same thing. It is just that the way of describing it is different. Java has its own syntax, C# has its own syntax, Ruby has its own syntax, but ultimately they're talking about the same thing. So you can say, if you understand object-oriented programming through the syntax of Java, you also know 90% C#, you also know 90% Ruby, you will also know 90% Python, you will also know 90% Perl. Why would you know that? Because we are talking about the concept of object-oriented programming on which Java is based. Okay, so if someone says we are going to learn Java, actually you're not learning Java, you're learning object-oriented programming through Java. Okay, so if you know Java, so I said 90% of C# you already know. That 10% is just the syntax of C# you need to know. What is the equivalent of the syntax in C#? That is what you need to learn. 90% of the concept is object-oriented programming, you already know that. Same is the case in Ruby. You just need to understand the syntax of Ruby. 90% of the stuff you already know. Okay, so we need to just understand object-oriented programming. That's what we are going to talk about. Java is just going to explain that. With the help of Java, you're just going to explain it. So now the question is, from where do I start? To start, we talk about the object-oriented programming starts from the concept of class and object. That's the first thing we talk about. That is the building block of object-oriented programming. So when I'm going to explain this class and object is the concept of object-oriented programming. The same concept exists in C#, the same concept exists in Ruby or Python and Perl, but I'm going to explain to you with the syntax of Java what that syntax is, what that means. Okay, so if you search on Google learn Java, ultimately you're not learning Java, you're learning object-oriented programming. If you search Google learn Ruby, you're not learning Ruby, you're learning object-oriented programming through Ruby. That's the difference. Okay, so we are going to understand this concept of object-oriented programming, and we're going to start from class and object. That is the beginning, that is the starting point. So now the question is, what is the class and what is an object? We got to know the starting point. Now we know from where I have to start. But what is this class and what is an object? For that, first we'll see the definition, bookish definition of class and object. What is a class and what is an object? Let's see that. Let me open a slide for that. Just hold on. Okay. So first of all, I'll just show you the definition of class and object. The bookish definition of class and object says, class is a group of objects that has common properties. It is a template or blueprint from which objects are created. Object says an entity that has state and behavior is known as an object. So as always, the definitions don't clarify anything, rather they just confuse us more what they actually mean, what actually they want to say. Okay, so this is happening with me from, I guess, 4th standard. I stopped understanding the definitions. I don't understand what the definitions want to say. So I don't understand this definition as well. Let us try to understand what is a class and an object. Actually, what does this mean? For that, I'll show you one more slide. So just hold on. Okay, so on your screen now you see a picture. Explain this picture, what you see on the screen. Just be as simple as possible. There is no need to complexify the things. Don't try to give some difficult answers, no technical answers, just simple. Just as explained as if you would be explaining it to a kid. If a kid asks you, what is this? What will be your answer? Okay, we get the answers like Usha says car, Rahat also says car, Deepa says a blue car, Nasreen says blue car, Lakshmi says image of the car. So the answers are like blue car, smoke is coming out of the car. Yeah, kind of. Okay, so these are the answers. Then one more picture, let us see. Now explain this picture. What is this? Okay. So this time the answers are coming like OD car. Okay, we're getting a virtualization image of the car. No, guys, we don't have to make the things complex. Actually, I don't understand what is a virtualization image of the car, but just consider me as a kid, what that in simple terms would mean. Okay, so we have this white car, gray car with 4 wheels and 2 doors. White car, yes. So this at this time we are also getting the answer. Just one more picture, and we'll discuss the concept. Okay, so now this picture. What is this car? Okay, so you might be feeling that I'm taking your automobile knowledge test. No, we are not testing your automobile knowledge. That is not at all required. Okay, so we're getting Mercedes car, Benz car, black Benz car, 3D pic of the car. Right. Grey car, but I don't know the name of the brand. Okay, no worries, guys. This is Mercedes. Just in case if you want to know the brand, this is Mercedes. This front grills, this tells us that this is Mercedes. Okay, so this is beautiful Mercedes car, you can say. No worries. Okay, so let's talk about the concept here. What the concept is. I've shown you 3 pictures here. The first picture was this car where when I asked you about this, that oh, what do you see here? Describe this picture. You said most of the people said here that this is a car. That's what you said, and that is absolutely correct. When you explained this, when you said that this is a car, no one said that this is a Honda car or Toyota or BMW or Mercedes or Audi. Everyone said this is a car, right? When I showed you the next car, you were quick to say that this is an Audi car. Okay, so you saw this grill, the front grill, and from these 4 circles, you were quick to say that this is an Audi car. That's correct. When I showed you the third picture, you were quick to say that this is a Mercedes car because you saw this front grill. Now here, for these 2 pictures, most of the people named this car. You didn't say that this is a car, but for the first picture, most of the people said this is a car. You didn't take any name for this. Why is it so? This is because this first car just represents cars in general. This is general representation. This is general depiction of the cars. Why did you say that? Because we are accustomed to see this shape. When we see this shape somewhere, we are accustomed to these shapes. We say that these refer to cars. Okay, so this is a car which we talked about. So when you talked about cars in general, since this shape doesn't represent cars in general, this picture doesn't represent cars in particular. This represents cars in general. So when you talk about something in general, you talked about a category of vehicle that is considered as car. In Java, we call that category as class, car. Okay, so this picture represented category of vehicles called as car. We use a different word for that. We don't call it as category, we call it as class. Okay, when you talk about a particular car, when you said an Audi car, when you became specific, or you said a Mercedes Benz car, when you're taking some particular name, when you're taking some specific name, we say we're talking about the object in Java. So class represents category, object represents a particular manifestation of that category. Audi is a particular manifestation of a car. Audi is a specific car. So we would say it is an object that now doesn't represent cars in general. Mercedes is a particular manifestation of a car. It is not a general car. It is not any other general car. It is a specific car we're talking about. Okay, so Mercedes is a specific car which we are talking about. Okay, so according to Java, that is an object. This is just to give you more examples. Let's just talk about a couple of more examples here. Like what we have talked about here, we talked about the class and object. Okay, the concept is already known to you. It is just that they're using some different terminology. That's it. Okay, so that's what we are clearing here. We talked about the first example is car is class, that is a generic word, and the object is Audi or Mercedes. Okay, then the other example of this could be fruits. If I say I had fruits in the breakfast, now when I say fruits, fruits is a generic word. It doesn't specify which fruits did I have in the breakfast. I could have taken apple, banana, orange, mango, pineapple. I could have taken any of these fruits in the breakfast. So fruits is a generic word, but if I specify which fruit did I have, then I would say I'm talking about the object. So apple is an object, banana is the object, orange is the object, or any fruit, pineapple, mango, all these are objects. Similarly, if you talk about vegetables, vegetable is a class or category of eatables which we can eat. They are created naturally. They just get created naturally. We just eat them. So vegetables is something which is a class of eatables. The example of that would be, an object of that would be potato, or onion, or tomato. Some people can say this is not a vegetable, this is a fruit. Oh, doesn't matter. Whatever that is, be it a fruit or vegetable, but generally it is considered as vegetable. And we can say bird. Class, bird is a class. Okay, if I say I saw a bird, which bird did I see? I did not specify. Bird is a generic word. The specific object of that could be, the specific example of that could be eagle, sparrow, or peacock. All these are birds, right? So this is class, and on the left hand side whatever we've written, these are classes, and on the right hand side the specific examples of that, what we've written, they are called as objects. So similar way, can you come up with some more examples from your day-to-day life? What can be considered as class and what can be considered as an object? Anything you can think of?
Clothes, for example, pants, shirts.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. May I know your name?
Rahat.
Rahat. Absolutely correct. Clothes are classes. Class is clothes, and pants, shirts, and any dress would be the object of that. Absolutely correct. Okay, and Nasrin says flower is a class. Absolutely. Rose and other flowers, I don't know the names of the flowers, other rose, tulips, so on can be the objects. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. Okay, so other examples, what others have to say? Archa says cell phones is the class. Yes. And its objects can be like Samsung, Apple, Nokia. All these are objects. Absolutely correct. These are objects. Absolutely, absolutely. You're giving the correct examples. Okay, so that's the concept. That's what you need to understand. What is a class and what is an object? Okay, so class is a generic word which represents category of something. Object is a particular manifestation of the class. Right? Let us try to read the definition once again. Now, this time, do we understand that or not? Let us try to understand it. We'll go to here. We'll go to the definition. We'll go read and read the definition. Let's see what it says. It says a class is a group of objects that has common properties. We talked about car. Car was a class that was representing a group of objects. Which group of objects was it representing? It was representing Mercedes and Audi in our example. So a class is a group of objects that has common properties. What are the common properties between Audi and Mercedes? Both these cars have steering wheels. Both these have seats to sit in. They have engines from where we derive the power. They have wheels on which the cars moves on. So these are some of the common features. Okay, so these are the common features. They have one shape, one common shape using which they have been created. The next line says it's a template or blueprint from which the objects are created. The template, the accepted template for a car is this. Okay, so this is the kind of template which is generally followed by all the car manufacturers. They just change the shape here and there. Some specific things are added, which becomes an Audi or Mercedes. But this is general template. When you see this shape, you are quick to say that this is a car. When you see this thing, you don't say this is a car. Probably you would say this is a pizza piece, this is a pizza slice. This is not a car, and because this is not a template for a car. The template for car is this. Okay, so this is the accepted template. So it's a template or blueprint from which the objects are created. When you give some more details, when you provide details, it becomes a specific car. An object would be created. Okay, so that is class. A class is a group of objects that has common properties. Just imagine the example of car. It's a template or blueprint from which objects are created. Object, an entity that has state and behavior, is known as an object. What does that mean? Now, state means those specific features due to which you have your own state of existence. Audi is different from Mercedes because it has its own state of existence. It has its own shape. It has its own features which differentiate from that of Mercedes. It has its own logo. So it has its own state of existence, due to which it can be differentiated from rest of the other cars on the road. So an entity that has state and behavior. By behavior, we mean the actions associated with the object. Now, Audi is going to have a different mileage from that of Mercedes. The sound noise is going to be different from that of Mercedes. Okay, so the amount of smoke which comes out of Audi, that would be different from that of Mercedes. Okay, so this is the behavior, this is the action associated with these objects. So an entity that has state and behavior is known as an object. Just imagine Audi or Mercedes. So that's the bookish definition of class and object. Tomorrow we'll talk about how do we program it, how do we put it in code, how do we write the code for that in Eclipse. That is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We'll be winding up here. Before we wind up, if you guys have any question to ask, then you can ask related to anything. You can ask if you have any questions. Okay, there's a question. Tomorrow is Sunday. Is there a class tomorrow? Yes, we have a class. At the same time, the classes are going to be on Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. From 11 to 1 p.m. the classes will be there, Saturday and Sunday. So yes, there will be a class.
Dependent, do we need to download Eclipse and Java for today?
Yes.
On our computer?
Yes.
All right.
Download it and install it, because tomorrow we'll be doing the practical stuff. We'll be writing the code so that you can also practice it after the class. Okay, so you can install it after the class also. It is not mandatory for you to install it before the class. You can install it after the class, but it is recommended that you do it so that after the class you can practice it.
Is Madhu going to send us all the links and the requirements?
Yes, he'll send it.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Same to you. Usha says per week we have 2 classes. Yes, per week there will be 2 classes, Saturday and Sunday, 2 hours each. Only weekends? Yes, only on weekends. Nasrin says, I do not have the syllabus. Can you please share it with us? Yes, Nasrin, you can get it from Madhu. Madhu will forward it to you. Okay. Okay, so that is just the email IDs. Same time, yes. Class will be at the same time tomorrow, 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. Same time. Is this a 10-hour class? No, it is going to be 20-hour class, guys. 4 hours each week. So 4 by 5, 20 times. So it will be a 20-hour class. Rahat says, will we use the same link? Yes, you'll be using the same link daily or whenever the classes are. So the same link work for you. Indu says, Eclipse is a UI tool to write Java code in. Yes, absolutely, Indu. Eclipse is a UI tool in which we will be writing our Java code. Absolutely correct. Nasrin says, can we get the recorded session as well? Yes, Nasrin, you'll be getting it after the class. Probably within an hour or two, you'll get that link from where you can download this video or you can see this video. You'll get it. Today itself, within 1 or 2 hours, you'll get it. This session recording, you'll get it. Okay, any other questions? No questions? Alright. But guys, so here we'll be winding up. Thank you so much for joining in. See you tomorrow at the same time, 11 a.m. EST. Till then, goodbye and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.